See, the cat had to be fouled in order for the man to come down on them like that, Jack. Now see, one thing about the man is that the man is not gonna come down on you unless you try to come down on the man. So what we got to do is learn to be righteous when it comes to coming down on the man. Cause if you don't mess with the man ain't gonna mess with you.
Dig that, dig. Ain't no black route. Propaganda program in your mind, propaganda program in your mind, be blind with me. Propaganda program in your mind, propaganda program in your mind, be blind with me. Propaganda program in your mind, propaganda program in your mind, be blind with me. Propaganda program in your mind, propaganda program in your mind, be blind with me.
American political propaganda machine, controlling the minds of African beings, controlling what I know by what I hear and what I see. Signed the Civil Rights Bill and told me I was free, and I believe. Bush bombed the towers, then said he was protecting me, and I believe. Voluntarily joined his army to fight for freedom overseas, and I believe. We've been bamboozled, run amok, mentally locked down with mind cuffs, waiting on a cracker to crack the clouds and come lift me up. Patiently I await while I'm stuck, sinking fast in deceitful quicksand, hit with African images of Tarzan, come out of the madman, giant Ugandan, lesbian images of Suge and Seeley, cracker images as Nefertiti, in order to justify genocide, first dehumanized, then destroyed, portray all blacks to be savages, pimps, hoes, and dope boys, murderers and liars, prevent the rise of another black messiah, discredit and fabricate, colonize and false educate, neutralize self-help with images that force me to self-hate, belittle and berate black women as gold-digging hoes so that I place no value in them. So mentally distraught I set my sights on a democratic cracker that grant me my human rights. My savior is my enslaver, therefore my enslaver I refuse to fight. American political propaganda machine got me docile, undeserved tribulations and trials, but I'll wait on cracker politicians and white Jesus in the meanwhile. What I am forced to see is what I know, therefore all I know I've been told. Killing for cover because I was told it's gold, wearing coats in the summer because I was told it's cold, thoroughly brain stained not to study on my own, propaganda, lies, deceit, mind control, believing I'm walking east but I'm really walking west, a thug with crucified phallic symbols on my chest. Be ye not deceived, for all things are political. As long as the hunters write the stories, the prey will always be portrayed as evil.
Monkey see and monkey do. With your mind handcuffed, monkey, can you see what they do to you? In plain view, on TV and in song. Propaganda programming the minds of the youth. Experiments gone wrong. Video vixens unwrap the mind of girl aged 12, teaching her that she is her ass and it's for sale. Curious about why two women touch and kiss that way, never experiencing real love, a victim of rape and molestation. She considers herself to be gay. Propaganda perpetuating perversion as a picture of perfection, a system of degradation and deception that trains the minds of young children and grown women and men that lean into thine own understanding is a sin. So fight black men, fight black men, fight black men and kill the second coming who is a little boy from a stable home, good mother and strong father providing what he needs, but the headphones are on, saying you're nothing if you ain't no thug, no bling bling, no Chevy sitting no dub, you a scrub, you hard, so wear your tats, your pants sag and I can see your ass crack. Homo thugs sit back and whack away like Damon on next Friday looking at Tupac. You're not a man if you don't sell the rocks upon which I build my jail. Prison industrial complex, experience in heaven, and black men pay bail just to go to hell. Again, the propaganda that perpetuates the parasites that permeates through a people that practice death at the expense of someone else's wealth, whose vision show disdain for us, stains us, trains us to hate us, and blames us for our own demise. Just a disguise that cover the ears and eyes of those with governmental ties. Garvey says that everything is political, though subtle. 1865 freed those slaves, so sorry to burst your bubble. Understand that a stick of bologna sliced thin disappears before you miss it. They create the problem, then benefits when they try to fix it. Malcolm says that they have the ability to make your enemy seem like your friend and your friend seem like your enemy. Trickology is the medium by which the media implants plants messages in the minds, you see, for physical digestion. 85,000 years of African spirituality overshadowed by today's European immaculate conception. You make it, I'll take it, and fake it, regurgitate it, just like I baked it to feed to you. I guess with their minds handcuffed, trained monkeys don't see or understand what they do.
Propaganda program in your mind, propaganda program in your mind. Propaganda program in your mind, propaganda program in your mind. Be blind with me. Propaganda program in your mind, propaganda program in your mind. Be blind with me. Propaganda program in your mind, propaganda program in your mind. Be blind with me. Take those handcuffs off, baby.
My ancestors woke me up this morning. They said, son, you do know what time it is, don't you? I said, what time is that? They said it's wartime, so welcome to the war front. Thank you for coming out, brothers and sisters. Y'all enjoy that video? Yes. Those are some strong brothers. How many people here are familiar with them, Brothers Keepers? How many people in here that was your first time ever seeing that video? That was powerful, but I want to let you know you can go online. The brothers are called Brothers Keepers. They're out of Memphis, Tennessee. Those are the baddest brothers that ever grabbed some microphones, and all of the music that they do is about saving African minds, saving black people from the condition we're in. We really appreciate you coming out. We thank you for being here, and it's going to be a very exciting 3-part course. 3 classes, all designed so that by the time we complete this course, the objective is that war on the horizon. Everyone that has seen all 3 of these courses, if we turn on anything, on any television, any movie, anything we turn on that has media coming our way, the radio, even reading the paper, we will know what the real message is that's coming through to our people. We will all be able to sit down and watch something and identify exactly what's occurring. And one of the things that we've been missing as it relates to media, we don't know the history of it. We don't know who put it together. We don't understand the psychology of it. And our purpose here today is to start with the first part of this lecture, this class. And the way it's going to work is 3 parts. The first class, in order to really understand entertainment and its importance, we must understand the history of it. Why was it created? Who created it? What was the purpose? How does it impact people? Why was it done? Who did it? Once we learn that, so most of this is going to be a lecture today. During the last part of it, once we're done, if people have some questions, that's fine. By the second course, it's going to get extremely interactive. By the middle of the second course, because then we're going to learn what the ingredients are of a movie. How does someone put it together? What are the ideas? How does it impact people? What is it designed to do? We're going to learn the guts and bolts, so we know exactly what somebody did to give us a message that's supposed to hurt us and supposed to help us. We'll know it, be able to identify it. And by the third class, you'll really enjoy that one. That's when you will honestly come in here, and what you've learned over the first 2 courses, we will look, all we're going to do is show media and have everybody break it down, and you'll be able to test your new knowledge. Now, I'm not much on long introductions, but I do want to say this. You're going to enter an entirely new world today. The real world that exists with the individuals that really rule this planet and actually shape the minds of the people of this world are a group of individuals that most of us know very little about. Because one of the definitive characteristics of this group is that they hide themselves. But today we're going to go deep into their psychology, deep into history, and learn about them and why they created entertainment and how it impacts our people. So understand, it's not about conspiracy. Everything you're going to see here today, I'm going to show you. There's no disputing it. You're going to see it with your own 2 eyes and hear it out their own mouths of what they have created. And then we will understand the origin of entertainment so that we will have the proper base to move forward after this. So we're just showing here some of the products we have here at War on the Horizon. I always remind people, you're not supposed to watch that Nat Turner Horizon as your first lecture. You all are okay because you're in the room, but you don't want to scare somebody away, man. You don't want to show them Nat Turner Horizon first. That one right there is kind of strong, but we have a number of different lectures and discussions and media available for brothers and sisters that you can watch and learn on a number of topics: religion, sexuality, genocide, and how the world is organized, the white world is organized to destroy black people all over the world. We have all of these lectures. We have a book, On the Horizon, explaining to black people that the 21st century is committed to racial warfare. And it's our decision: either we're going to decide to protect ourselves and defend our own interests, or we're going to really face serious destruction on this planet. And I know that's a lot to start off with, but we say this 3-part course, we call it Fighting the Poltergeist. I was talking to a young man, and he told me, we were talking, and he said, you know, that movie Poltergeist wasn't a horror movie. And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about, right? He said, no, it was a metaphor. How many people here remember the movie Poltergeist?
Poltergeist.
Remember? That wasn't to the line. Remember, she's watching the TV, and all of a sudden, television pulls her in. It wasn't a horror film. It was a metaphor for the power that television, that media has on a young mind. And that if you allow a child open reign in front of this thing, then it can pull them away mentally, and you will spend the rest of your life trying to pull that child back in and say, I didn't teach this child. How did they get this way? That thing, that media, this environment can take that child away from you. That was what that is about. And so that's what we're talking about here. How do we fight this media powerhouse that gets into the minds of our children and turns them upside down and inside out? Let's start from the very beginning. What is entertainment? Most of us, man, it's just entertainment. Why are you making such a big deal out of it? It's just entertainment.
That's what they say, bro.
That's what people say. Oh man, well, I mean, it's not a big deal because we don't understand. Okay, if it's just entertainment, what is entertainment? Let's take the word apart and understand it. To enter means to go into, right? Enter the house, go on in. Tame, to capture or confine. Contain, attain, means you want to hold something, right? Mint, the means or results of an action. If you establish something, you haven't established. Mint, right? If you accomplish something, you haven't accomplished. That's right. So it's the means or results of an action. That's mint. So when we put it together, entertainment is the result of going into and capturing the minds of people. You ever sat down and say, man, that thing had me captivated. I really got into that thing. That's what entertainment is. It's about capturing people's attention, taking their minds and taking them on a journey where you want their mind to go. Here's one little nuance, but it's very important for us to understand. What makes entertainment so powerful is that, and we see all these different types of entertainment, all these different types of entertainment. Why are they so powerful? The television, the magazines, the radio, the newspapers, the movies. What makes, in particular, the television so dangerous? I want you to think about looking at that television. What makes it so dangerous is that it's a one-way form of communication. Most times when you communicate, you talk to somebody, both parties have a chance to give in. When you said you was watching that movie, you really got into it, you got it reversed. No. There's no way for you to speak to that television. There's no input that you have to go into the TV from what's inside of you. Somebody comes up with ideas, thoughts, behavior that they want to give you. They put it in the thing, put it on TV, and you sit there and take it in. You're the input. It outputs into you. You have no way to give it back. It's a one-way form of communication. If they give you something good, you get something good. If they give you something bad, you get something bad, but you have no way to give back to it. And so when we talk about entertainment, we're not saying that entertainment is altogether bad. What we are saying, though, because right now, if we're going to be here about an hour and a half or so, I have to keep your mind captivated. So to some degree, I'm trying to enter your mind and entertain you. But just remember, you're not getting into something, it's getting into you. Remember, when you're watching TV, you're not getting into that movie, it's getting into you. My objective today, I'm your friend, I'm not your brother. I want to get into your mind to give you something good. But most times when you're dealing with individuals and you turn on television, they have no good intentions for you. Why is entertainment so dangerous? Because entertainment has the potential of replacing active, independent, analytical thinking in people. I'm going to say it again. Entertainment has the potential of replacing active, independent, analytical thinking in people. Let's let's talk about what it was like before the television. Most people are here, I can see it's a young crowd, so most people don't know what it was like before the television. My mother always tells me, though, you know, she remembers when our family first got the first television. And she says, you know, when I talk to older people about what they used to do without a TV, because growing up with me, you had to have a TV. What did you do? They played chess. They read books. They went out to the creek and they skipped rocks across. They talked to one another. They talked about ideas. They sat at the dinner table and talked about all of the things going on in society, what happened in school in the day. If they were good women at sewing, they would make their own clothes and sew and crochet. Brothers, they were good with cars. They'd go out and work on vehicles. Or if they were good with making things, they would carve. In other words, when we had what we call free time, if we had that after work, after we were fully engaged, what we would do with that time, we would take it and think independently and do something independently valuable with that time. We would decide what we would do. It would be our decision of what to go do. What this entertainment does that we have today is instead of interacting and engaging in productive behavior that you decide you want to do, we sit down, we open up our minds. Instead of figuring out what we think, instead of reading a book or the paper and deciding what we think on the issue, we sit there, we let someone bring something to us, and we take it all in. With all input and no output. We become open vessels for the ideas that others have to put inside of us. And at some point, we forget what it is like to independently think and make our own decisions of what we want to do, where we want to go, how we want to go, and why. That's what makes entertainment so dangerous. I was talking to a brother, a very committed brother. That's right. Give him a round of applause if you don't know him. I wouldn't lie to you. His brother Canal Bone. Very, very powerful black man who's dedicated to the freedom and independence of African people, and more specifically dedicated to finding a final resolution to the conflict between black people and whites that have been existing for so long. And I was talking to the brother a few weeks ago, and he said something to me that was so profound, I said I have to put this in there because it's the truth. He was talking about youth. And he was talking about the power of the mind. And he said, the first one to the mind is the winner. And he went on to explain, he said, see, when you got a child, it doesn't come out crazy. It doesn't come out a criminal, a thief, a liar, a cheat. She doesn't come out disrespectful to herself or self-hating, any of that. He said, whatever it is, the first thing that gets to the mind of that child and captivates that child. As an adult, they will be a reflection of the first thing that really captures them. And so it's critical at those formative ages, from the time they come out the womb, even when they're in the belly, to the time they're 5 or 6 years old, that we pour as much positive self-respect and decency and knowledge of self and self-identification into them as possible. Because if that captures them, we capture them with love for self, when you find that 20, 30, and 40 years old, even if they go away with it at some point, they will love themselves. You teach them to hate themselves, if you teach them to be buffoons, if you teach them the wrong thing, or if you let somebody else capture them, that is the resulting adult that you're going to deal with that was created when that mind was captured as a child. And so we see here, as a no fault of our own, not being taught that media is complete warfare. In fact, I'm going to make this statement. The most powerful form of psychological warfare in the history of the world is the modern media. There has never been a more effective form of psychological warfare against any people on the planet than the modern thing today we call media. And we're going to go in and look at it, but that's what we do. We sit our children in front of this thing, and we're going to study today who it is that is putting ideas into their mind and what the ideas are. Now, in order to understand who's putting in these ideas, we got to talk about Hollywood. That's what all it is, the TV, the movies, all of this stuff they call it Hollywood. And I was watching a video by some European male, I forget what he was talking about, but he mentioned Hollywood. And he said the term Hollywood was created back in the middle, the term Hollywood comes from the holly tree. That during medieval times, the Europeans, who were quote-unquote magicians, tricksters, used to make their magic wands out of this holly tree. And so they call it Hollywood because of the wood, Hollywood. And basically, all a magician is a trickster. So when we're looking at Hollywood, in that same idea, I want you to understand what we're looking at. We think that we're looking at just entertainment. Well, we are. We're looking at somebody coming to capture our mind. Just like when you go see the magician. Remember though, The individual doing that understands what they're doing. They're trying to capture your mind, the magician. He wants to capture your mind, have you blown away, you can't believe what happened, in exchange for money, right? So he comes in with a hat that has a rabbit in it, correct?
Right.
The hat got a rabbit in it.
Right.
Then he pulls a rabbit out of a hat. But he makes you believe that it was an empty hat that a rabbit magically came out of, and you are so captivated mentally that he can magically appear this magic rabbit that you give him money there to come and ultimately trick you because you're smart enough to know that he cannot magically make it. You can't figure out how he did it, but it's like, wow. So if you consider what we're talking about Hollywood, just like that magician. It's giving you something, you think, oh, it's some entertainment, it's a good movie. You pay your money to go get something, but only the individual putting it together understands what it's actually designed to do to you. Let's talk about who's putting it together. You. That's right, the whites who call themselves Jews are the individuals who created entertainment. Not only did they create entertainment, but the movie industry, the television that they run and control, all of it, not some of it, 100% of it. And what I want to do now, because I don't like telling you nothing without showing you. Y'all all right?
Yes, sir.
Are y'all captivated now, your minds?
Yes, sir.
All right, we're going to look now, and we're going to answer this question, because if I don't answer this question, some white so-called Jew will come up and say, what he's saying is not true. I want definitively, when we leave this room, for there to be no question who created the entertainment industry and who runs it from top to bottom, all right?
That's right.
So take out that light for me, brother. We're going to go ahead and watch a clip to answer the question. And when it's over, when we finish with the clip, I'm going to ask you the question. Who runs Hollywood?
The Jewish comedians who entertained in the Catskills embraced their Jewishness, playing to Jewish audiences and cracking Jewish jokes. The Jewish Americans who created the movie business aimed their films at a mainstream audience, creating an imaginary America where Jews barely existed.
How do you do?
Good morning. I'm Betsy Booth. Won't you come in?
One of Hollywood's greatest hits was the story of a teenage boy named Andy Hardy.
You're Andy Hardy, aren't you?
Uh-huh. I live right next door.
The Andy Hardy films were fairy tale visions of small-town life in
Well,
America,
you go right on.
fantasies of a Jewish immigrant, Louis B. Mayer. Mayer was one of the most powerful men in Hollywood. Born desperately poor, the son of a junk metal dealer, he was like most of the other men who had come to dominate movie-making in the 1920s. Immigrant Jews who were called the Hollywood Moguls. Adolph Zucker, Carl Laemmle, William Fox, Samuel Goldwyn, and the Warner Brothers. Tough, ambitious men, most of them from impoverished families, determined to succeed in a business which began on the margins of American economic life.
Movies were slightly disreputable. They required very little in the way of capital. Jews could go in and define this as theirs because they didn't have to compete with anybody. Non-Jews who considered themselves a little on the genteel side wouldn't want to get their hands dirty with this anyhow.
They actually created a whole new industry. And because it was the beginning, because they were in a new country, they had no rules. And they could make the rules as they went along.
Mayer's company, MGM, became known for its roaring lion framed by the Latin slogan, Ars Gratia Artis, art for art's sake. But art was hardly on Mayer's mind. He created a studio more extravagant than all the others, with the highest budgets, the richest take at the box office, and more stars, he liked to boast, than there are in the heavens. Many of the big Hollywood stars changed their names. Isser Danielovich Dembski became Kirk Douglas. Emmanuel Goldberg, Edward G. Robinson. Betty Joan Persky, Lorne Bacall. Bernie Schwartz, Tony Curtis.
It stunned me to realize that some of the movie stars that I love so much were actually Jewish. But nobody ever said they were. They weren't supposed to be. They changed their names.
Freddie Roman is my stage name. My real name was Fred Kirschenbaum. I grew up in Queens. We all changed our names because in order to Americanize it, to make us more acceptable to the mainstream.
This is All Access presents So Jewtastic. They're hip.
Hey, Mr. Pevin!
They're hot. And they're Jewish. Everywhere you look, a big, proud Jew is doing something cool, funny.
What do you mean?
Or a little bit scary. But whatever these hipster heaves are doing, they're doing it with a different attitude. A new Jew-tude, if you will.
There's a whole new generation of Jewish actors coming out, and they're proud to be Jewish.
Zach, right here, please. Zach Braff leading the way. He's like, look, I'm a Jew. What are you going to do about it?
Natalie Portman, drop dead gorgeous.
Adam Goldberg making the movie The Hebrew Hammer. Adam Sandler out there is doing his stuff. Ben Stiller's huge.
What's happening now is that Jews can now sort of come out of the closet about their Judaism. You know, like no one knew the Three Stooges were Jewish. You know, they were just like a bunch of goofballs. Nowadays, the Three Stooges would have talked about it. They would have been like, hey, yeah, that's right, we're Jewish. You got a problem with that?
I'm getting a little bald, so I wear a yarmulke. I'm getting more religious because of that reason.
While plenty of Jewish celebs are publicly embracing their Judaism, some still fly quietly under the radar, otherwise known as Judar.
There's a tradition of Jews changing their name in show business.
Smile.
Alan Konigsberg becomes Woody Allen. Bernie Schwartz becomes Tony Curtis.
Andrew Dice Clay was Andrew Clay Silverstein? He made up Dice? Oh, that's wrong.
Robert Zimmerman becomes Bob Dylan.
Robert Zimmerman. I would have accepted you for who you were. If your music good, you could be Zimmerman.
Eugene Horowitz becomes Michael Landon.
Michael Landon, the dad from Little House on the Prairie, which, by the way, shared with the world a lot of Christian sentiments. Jew, big Jew. Eugene. Interesting.
Taking a stage name has been and still is a huge part of being Jewish in Hollywood. Jonathan Stewart Leibowitz shortened his name to John Stewart, and Natalie Hirschlag became Natalie Portman. Don't forget Hollywood. After all, the Jews run it, don't they?
There's no denying the fact that the Jews invented Hollywood, and the Jews to this day still predominate in Hollywood. Now, why is it?
The serious answer is that Jewish tradition places a very high value on education. A lot of our people got college educations, started businesses, and succeeded. The cheap explanation is that we're the chosen people. What's the point in being God's chosen people if you're not going to end up controlling the media?
Life is good and that's no lie.
Let me just say that I'm glad that Jews run Hollywood, because why do you think I'm on TV right now? Because I'm funny? Barely. Because I'm Jewish.
Do the white so-called Jews run Hollywood, brothers and sisters?
Yes, sir.
Not just because I said it, right? All right, now, we got to make one adjustment in what we're doing, because if they run it, then isn't it important, it's fair to say, all right, they just said from top to bottom, they run all the images we get. We need to know a little bit about them, right?
Right.
Let's learn a little bit about these individuals. For purposes of words, terminology, we're not going to call them Jews anymore. I'm going to tell you why. They're not actually the Jews that are spoken of in the biblical terms. They have no relation, and many black people who are related to the original people who created Judaism get offended when we use that term. And because these individuals are not truly Jews in terms of bloodline, we use a different term for them. They're actually a group of individuals called Khazars. And they're from a region of the Caucasus Mountains called Ashkenaz. And so they call themselves Ashkenazis. Ashkenazi. They use that term pretty frequently. Ashkenazi so-called Jews. And a lot of black people and some whites call them so-called Jews because the only reason they adopted Judaism when the Crusades were going on, the Christians and the Muslims were going to war with one another. They didn't want to get picked up by the Christians or the Muslims, so they adopted a neutral religion of Judaism and adopted that religion. It wasn't something that came from them. And then they began to, they never practiced Judaism, but they began to call themselves Jews. And what happened is, pretty much at this point in time, these Ashkenazis, who are from the Caucasus Mountains of Russia, from Ashkenaz, now call themselves Jews. And when people say Jews, you're talking about the Ashkenazis. Ashkenazis are too long of a term. Most of us are not familiar with it. So we pick a term that's a little easier. You know, they wear them little tiny small hats. We call them small hats. So that's easy to remember. When we talk about small hats, we talk about the ones with the little tiny hats in front of their head, the Ashkenazis. So that's what we're going to call them from now on. The Ashkenazi is the white so-called Jews. So let's take a little test to see if we'll all know what we're talking about. When I say small hat, I'm talking about who? The Ashkenazi, white so-called Jew. That's right. Let's do it one more time. When I say Ashkenazi, and when I say small hat, I'm talking about who?
Ashkenazi, white so-called Jews.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. All right. So let's talk about the small hats. First thing we want to talk about, and I'm doing a lot of video today. What sense does it make to do entertainment if I'm not going to show you? I'm just going to sit up and talk to you. One thing to understand about this group, just a little bit of history. And there's so much to learn about them, this is very critical. The way they view the world is different than everybody else on the planet. So understand, we're going into this, when I say we're going into a new world, we're now going into their world. This is how they view the world. There are two groups of people on the planet. Small hats, which they call Jews. And everybody else is what they call a Gentile. Another term for Gentile, they call it Goy. G-O-Y, Goy. More than one Goy is called the Goyim. So the Gentiles are what they call Goyim. And their philosophy is very simple. If you are a small hat, if you are a white so-called Jew, Ashkenazi, then you are a human being and you have rights. If you are not a small hat, then you are beneath the level of an animal. They have the right to your women, your children, your money, your land. They have the right to even kill you. And they do not believe, and this is, I want you to understand, this is their biblical interpretation. It is religious for them. Their religious belief system is that you have the Jews and the Gentiles, the small hats and everybody else. And everybody else is a Goy or a Gentile. If you are a Gentile, you have no rights. They will not tell you this verbally, but that is how they will treat you and that is how they operate. This is their belief system, as we will justify as we look here. Now, it is important to understand that because of their behavior over the course of centuries, they have abused whites in Europe so badly that when whites find out how they feel about them and how they're treating them and how they're exploiting them, they, Nazi Germany, Martin Luther, not Martin Luther King Jr., but Martin Luther, all of these individuals throughout the course of Europe galvanized the white masses and start killing them. See, when black people find out we getting oppressed and getting exploited, we come together, we try to change it. When white folks find out somebody exploiting them and stealing them, they gonna start killing some folks. And so throughout the course of history, whenever whites let the small hats into their European societies, the small hats will come in there and don't act like regular white folks. They treat the whites in Europe the same way that whites around the world treat black people and the Native Americans and everybody else. And that's the reason why if you ever see the white supremacists don't like the small hats and they talk about Jews, what's going on is the same way that whites look at us and think that we're animals and that they're better than us, the only group of whites who go around with this egotism that they're better than other white folks are the small hats. And that's why there's a major rift historically, and that's why they found themselves in Nazi Germany. They exploit the Germans to death, and when the Germans get sick of it, they start putting them in ovens and killing them and murdering them. And so we see that conflict there. It's important for us to understand, and now we're going to look at documented history and evidence of the way that they view anybody who's not a small hat. Could you hit the light for me, brother? Y'all with me? Yes. You captivated? Yes, all right, let's go get it then.
However, the quickest way to grasp the Talmudic view of Gentiles is not directly from the Talmud, but from the Jewish encyclopedias. If we quote an isolated opinion from the Talmud, a rabbi may quickly object, saying, but that is not the overall opinion of the Talmud. That is not the definitive view. What the Jewish encyclopedia provides us is a definitive overview of perhaps hundreds of rabbinic statements on any subject. giving us accurate summaries of what the Talmud generally teaches.
In its article on Gentiles, the Jewish Encyclopedia begins to define what makes a Jew so different from a Gentile. According to the rabbis, only Israelites are men. Gentiles they classed not as men, but as barbarians. Since Gentiles are not men in the fullest sense, so the Gentile is not a neighbor of a Jew. Further, since Gentile laws were too crude to admit of reciprocity, meaning too crude to be taken seriously, the Gentile was forever beneath the Jew. Gentiles were outlawed by God from the beginning, and thus had no property rights. The Almighty offered the Torah to the Gentile nations also, but since they refused to accept it, he withdrew his shining legal protection from them and transferred their property rights to Israel, who observed his law. Since the Talmud outlawed the child, or issue of a Gentile, as that of a beast, a Gentile had as little legal rights in a Jewish court as did an animal. The Talmud states that if a Gentile sue an Israelite, the verdict is for the defendant, the Israelite. Conversely, if the Israelite is the plaintiff, he obtains full damages. Because the Talmud conspires against Gentiles, if a Jew was ever caught telling a Gentile what the Talmud really says, such a person deserves death. So vile was the nature of a Gentile that the great Simeon ben Yohai said, "The best among the Gentiles deserves to be killed. The best of snakes ought to have its head crushed." Jews, however, are exalted beings in the Talmud, worthy of praise. Christ described the Pharisee who blessed himself, saying, "I thank thee, Lord, that I am not as other men." An eminent Talmudic rabbi says the same. "Blessed be thou, who hast not made me a goy, or Gentile."
Shalom. This is Jackie Mason here with an important lesson for all you goyim and shiksas out there.
Hey, goys and girls, Elon Gold here at LA's famous Cantor's Deli. I know Jewish culture can be a bit confusing, so why don't we go inside and play everybody's favorite game? Jew got questions, Jew got answers.
All right. So I don't think, and the only reason I showed those last clips, because everything I show you that, when we talk about the Babylonian Talmud, that was something that was written hundreds and hundreds of years ago. That's their main Bible. So just so you hear these things, you understand. They have the small hat has his own Bible. It's called the Babylonian Talmud. Christians had a King James version. They have their children, then they have their version called the Babylonian Talmud. But did you see Jackie Mason when he said, "Hey to all you goyim and shitzes out there"? You heard that, right? Mm-hmm. I want you to understand that this is not just something that happened hundreds of years ago. This is what they teach their children. That if you're not a small hat, all of them, that includes black people, it also includes whites too, not that that's relevant to us, but this is how they look at everybody that's not a small hat. As a consequence, when we start looking at media, I don't want you to forget that, because the way they treat individuals in media is directly related to their religious beliefs. But not only do we want to understand, we can't do everything about them, but not only do we need to understand their superiority complex, but now we have to get to something that's extremely insidious and ugly. Their sexual perversion. There's no more sexually perverse group on this planet than the small hats. We tend to think of white folks as just being real sexually perverse. They are. But even among white folks, the most homosexual, pedophilic of all white folks. In fact, the difference between regular whites and the small hat, regular white folks are perverted. That's just their culture. It's just who they are. That's when they get up in the morning, that's just what they are. The small hat's difference is, in addition to that just being him because he's a European, in his biblical belief system, he thinks that it is right to be a homosexual. It is correct to rape children. This is what he teaches his folks. This is his biblical God belief system. Let us go again to the Babylonian Talmud and look at his sexual beliefs. This is very important because lots of times we turn on the TV, you wonder why every commercial you look at got a transvestite on it. Why got somebody gay or some bending over butt joke or something that you're like, what's going on here? Understand, it's not funny. I mean, it's funny, but it's not funny when you understand where it comes from. We're going to look now back to our Babylonian Talmud and see what their sexual belief system is. And this will make more sense as to what we see in the media. Could you hit the light for me, brother? Y'all all right? Yes, sir.
In 3 of the major treatises of the Talmud are found extensive passages which give legal endorsement to seduce and marry 3-year-old baby girls. In fact, many of the greatest rabbis of the Talmud, including Simeon ben Yochai, upheld this privilege. Today in Israel, thousands of Jews go to Meron every year to venerate the memory of Simeon ben Yochai, one of the most respected rabbis in the history of Judaism.
In one of dozens of endorsements of child sex, Simeon ben Yochai said, "A proselyte under the age of 3 years and a day is permitted to marry a priest." Agreeing with ben Yochai, the great Rabbah said, "When a grown-up man has intercourse with a little girl, it is nothing, for when the girl is less than this, 3 years and a day, it is as if one put the finger into the eye." The footnote to this passage says, "As tears come to the eye again and again, so does virginity come back to the little girl under 3 years." The same section confirms that sexual activity with small boys is in the same category. The intercourse of a small boy is not regarded as a sexual act. The Talmud provides generous loopholes for adultery. It says the penalty for adultery does not include sex with a minor, the wife of a minor, or the wife of a heathen. The Talmud also encourages seduction of unwed adolescent girls called designated bondmaids. But it's important how such rapes are performed. With the designated bondmaid, one is guilty only in the case of natural connection, but not in the case of perverse connection. The Pharisees reasoned that rape in a perverted manner is outside the jurisdiction of the law. Normal rape, however, was punishable.
Still ahead, the man in the mask, who mass-marketed porn.
Reuben Sturman was by far, without doubt, the most important pornographer in the history of the world.
When talking about the people who helped make porn mainstream, the most important may have been a man who did everything in his power to keep his face out of the news.
Reuben Sturman did not like to appear full face in court, but every time you would see him on camera going in or out of the courtroom, he would have on a surgical mask and a hat. He was secretive, yeah.
Reuben Sturman has been called the Bill Gates of the sex industry. His name may not be a household word, but he may have done more than anyone to spread pornography around the world.
He started out in Cleveland, which is his hometown, selling magazines. Then he found out about girly magazines, went from there to hardcore porn, and by the early 1970s, he was probably the richest, the most famous, the most powerful man in the entire world in porno.
Reuben Sturman was also a mentor to porn mogul and free speech advocate Larry Flynn.
I consider Reuben one of the few friends that I've had over the years.
And Reuben Sturman was an innovator. Back when he was selling girly magazines, he found a way for his customers to browse in private. And that led to the peep show booth. Like fast food, Sturman's shops and merchandise were everywhere.
He had over 700 corporations. Each 30 bookstore that he had its own corporation.
At one time in the 60s, Reuben had 1,200 adult bookstores nationwide.
Reuben Sturman was hauled into court again and again. When the government charged him with obscenity, he'd sue them back. And time and again, he'd win. By some counts, more than 40 times.
I beat these guys 16 ways from Sunday. Every one of them. They all hated me like poison. Because of the fact that they could never win.
But sexual neurosis, that's still sort of a Jewish thing.
Jews are obsessed with sex. You know, we're the only people who make a bread with a hole in it.
In terms of the Jewish tradition, sex has never been considered a sin. Sex has always been considered an absolute fantastic kind of an activity.
Do you date like the Catholic girl and there'd be like a little challenge and be like, oh no, my God, and stuff? And it's like, Jewish women have no God. Like, when the lights go out, it is godless.
She's sexy.
It is godless and dirty and wrong and wonderful.
So, where do all those stereotypes about Jews and sex come from? You know, like the one about Jewish men and their...
I have encountered some Jewish, none of which were small.
It's like on CSI, they're always like, go to the evidence. Do Jewish men have smaller... Go to the evidence. Go straight to Ron Jeremy.
As far as the myth of Jews having small... I'd like to think I broke that one. In fact, I'm sitting over here, my parked in the car.
Ron Jeremy is kind of like the Yao Ming to Jews. We're shocked, we're proud, we don't know how it happened, but we're riding it.
I want you to pay special attention. The reason I chose the particular clips I did, the more recent ones, it's very obvious, the Babylonian Talmud, the freakishness. But I just want you to see, you see how well-dressed these small hats are? They look very professional, but they're talking about pornography as if it's something that just, you should be talking about in front of children. It's just normal and ordinary. So that's kind of how they operate. They're extremely freakish and decadent. They're the ones behind the whole gay marriages and the homosexuals adopting children and the whole pedophile worldwide child sex trade. They're behind all of this freakishness. But they dress and they talk very educated sounding. So you look at them and they sound like they're intelligent and they can actually take stuff that's actually gutter subculture stuff, pornography. And just celebrate it right in front of the world. And that's why, because they rule it, that sexual perverseness, that we saw the real depth of it, but we see the things, the pornography being big now, all these things that we see on television, the dressing clothes that they make for females, that you can't, if a woman wants to wear something that covers herself, she can't even find stockings these days. The little skinny pants for boys, just everything you see in the society that's going towards sexually perverse things, these individuals are in control of. And they're making it, they're dragging the entire society down sexually with this madness. Now, we're going to begin to really get into this discussion because we got to understand, now that we understand their mentality, what does that have to do with entertainment? I want you to listen very carefully because this is one of the most important things you're ever going to hear about entertainment. The birth of entertainment began with the small hat named Thomas Dartmouth Rice in 1828. The birth of entertainment began with a small hat named Thomas Dartmouth Rice in 1828. What happened? Let me give you a picture, draw this picture so that it becomes very easy to understand. Because of the Atlantic slave trade where African people were holistically sold into slavery in the Western Hemisphere, the small hats became the richest interest group of individuals on this planet. Columbus was a small hat. The major finances of the Atlantic slave trade were small hats. The individuals, the two largest slave ports in America were New York, New Amsterdam, New York, Jew York, and South Carolina. Both of these two states, even to this day, are run by white so-called Jews, by small hats. The entire enslavement of African people, everything from the insurance companies to the ships to the largest slave plantations to the major, some of the major, our brother Haki Ami informed us the other night that 3 of the major generals fighting to keep the Confederacy and keep black people enslaved were who? Small hats. In other words, the reason that they got richer than anybody on this planet was the exploitation of African people. The Atlantic slave trade, very simply, was started and promoted and controlled by small hats. They became the richest individuals in the world. So after 1804, when the Haitian Revolution was won by Haitian brothers and sisters and they declared their freedom, it began to become obvious, and with Europeans and America talking about wanting to industrialize in this country, that the end of slavery would be coming. This frightened small hats to death. Why? Slavery had done something for small hats in the Western Hemisphere that they had never had in the history of the world. When they were in Europe, it was small hats and other white folks. When other white folks found out how small hats felt about them, they started killing them. Through the slave trade, they were not only able to make themselves filthy rich, they were able to put another group in between them and white folks, us. So they could get white folk, they enslaved, They make white folks plantation owners and get involved in making chains to enslave us. Now the attention of white folks is no longer on small hats. Their attention is on enslaving us. And while they're doing that, the small hats are taking over their country, dominating every industry. They're taking total control of what's happening. If slavery ended in America, that would mean that black people would leave this country. And it would only be small hats and Anglo-Saxons. They would see that they had taken over there and they controlled their country. And just like Hitler and Nazi Germany, they would get slaughtered. So they said, slavery is going to end soon. What are we going to do? And in 1828, Thomas Dartmouth Rice saw a crippled black man who was enslaved, and he was doing a dance he did. He took the man's clothes, went out, got large white audiences around, and began to accept money and began to imitate this black man. And they started paying him to do it, and it became so popular he would take black cork and make his paint his face black. I want you to say, this is where entertainment begins in this country. And he paints his face black in his body so that he's imitating the black man. For what purpose? Because he doesn't want slavery to end, because that's how small hats have become rich, through the system of exploitation of African people. And so, if they can't physically enslave us, then they need to put the image out about black people that we're monsters and we're animals to justify our continued exploitation. And this is the beginning of the transference from physical enslavement, where they make millions of dollars off of us out there physically doing their work for them, to a new industry that is still based on the exploitation of African people. However, as opposed to physical exploitation, now it's mental exploitation. Taking the image of our people and making it look like we deserve to be enslaved. We deserve to be a bunch of slaves. We deserve to be mistreated. You can't let these people out. And if they do get free, we're going to keep the attention on the black people so that we can do what we want in this society, and we can make millions of dollars entertaining white folks who come out and give us, remember the trickster? Gives us their money so that we can act in a manner that pretending like we're acting like black people, so that the whites then believe that black people want to be enslaved. Therefore, it's right to enslave and mistreat us to continue this thing going so that they can stay rich. So we're going to go ahead and do what we always do. I'm not just going to tell you, let me show you. Thomas Dartmouth Rice.
The Happy Sambo began his stage life in the late 1820s when a man named T.D. Rice brought a new sensation to American theater. Rice was known as an Ethiopian delineator, a white comedian who performed in blackface. The name of his routine would later become the symbol of segregation in the South.
The Jim Crow was a dance that started on the plantations as a result of dancing being outlawed in 1690. Dancing was said to be crossing your feet by the church. And so the slaves created a way of shuffling and sliding to safely glide around the laws without crossing their feet.
The slaves had a saying for their cunning in skirting the law.
Wheel about and turn about and jump just so. Every time I wheel about, I jump Jim Crow.
According to legend, T.D. Rice saw a crippled black man dancing an exaggerated Jim Crow dance. Rice took the man's tattered clothes and that night imitated him on stage.
It was an instant success, and America loved it, and a bevy of imitators came about. Literally hundreds of men tore up their clothes, discarded their perfect dialects of the black man, and began to do this exaggerated character dance, which became known as the Jim Crow character. And so here we have Jim Crow, T.D. Rice, taking a dance which was altered by a law from a man who was crippled and exaggerating it again. And he had no intention of presenting truth. But what was bought by the majority of people in Ohio and in the Louisiana Territory and along the Erie Canal was that this was a true image. And it was a devastating image. People in small towns who had never seen blacks, and suddenly saw Rice, bought that as a black image.
In 1843, a group of blackface performers joined together to form a single troupe. Instead of delineators, they called themselves minstrels. The minstrel show captivated broad audiences, mostly in the North, and emerged as America's first form of national popular entertainment. Like movies today, successful minstrels played to the tastes and values of their audiences. Jim Crow, reflecting popular demand, evolved into the singing, dancing Sambo. This light-hearted figure became one of the most potent forces in the politics of slavery.
The minstrelry era really took off at the same time that the abolitionist movement took off. As there were people working to end slavery, people working to eradicate slavery, there were also people increasing the exaggerated portrayals that we find in the minstrel materials.
Minstrel caricatures mirrored the prevailing belief that slavery was good for the slave, since it drew upon his natural inferiority and willingness to serve. Slaves were content. The proof was offered in the image of the happy Sambo.
The old plantation was presented as a kind of paradise. White Americans were being constantly bombarded with the image of happy slaves, is what it amounted to. So slavery must be a good institution if the slaves were happy and the masters were kindly. And so that whole cultural image of a benign or beneficent institution was projected constantly in the period immediately before the Civil War.
So blessed with moderate work, with ample fare, with all the good the starving pauper needs, the happier slave on each plantation leads.
I am quite sure they never could become a happier people than I find them here. No tribe of people have ever passed from barbarism to civilization whose progress has been more secure from harm, more genial to their character, or better adapted to their intellectual feebleness than the Negroes.
Oh, hand the banjo down to play.
We'll make it ring both night and day.
If we care not what the white folks say, they can't get us to run away.
Time and again, these sentiments were expressed in the popular songs and novels before the Civil War. For many Americans, North and South, the myth of Sambo resolved both the moral and political conflict of allowing slavery in a free society.
On the one hand, whites liked to think of their blacks as Sambos in the antebellum period, but they could never have operated plantations with Sambos, and they knew that.
The slavery debate grew more heated as the Civil War approached. Minstrels, playing to conservative sentiment, turned their attention to free blacks in the North, and a new character appeared beside the Southern Sambo, Zip Coon.
Transcendentalism is that spiritual cognizance of the psychological irrefragability.
A dandy and a buffoon, Zip Coon's attempts to imitate whites mocked the notion of racial equality. Together, Zip Coon and Sambo provided a double-edged defense of slavery. Zip Coon, proof of blacks' ludicrous failure to adapt to freedom, and Sambo, the fantasy of happy darkies in their proper place.
Understand, Small Hats created, when you say entertainment, it was created for the specific purpose of keeping black people enslaved. In other words, we always talk about, nah, slavery, entertainment, man, just a movie, why you, stop. This ain't an opinion. Go back to the history. The reason entertainment was created was to demean black people, to keep us enslaved so that Small Hats could continue to exploit black people and use us as a justification to tell other white folks to kill and murder and torture black people while they do whatever they want to do with the society. That's why entertainment was created. So it was not created to make people smile, not created to make people feel good. It was created to exploit and demean and enslave and keep black people enslaved. That was the purpose of the creation of entertainment. So now that we understand that, now we got to move it and understand it. The major form of what we call today entertainment from 1830 to 1930, over 100 really to 1950, 120 years, was what? Blackface. White small hats, they just said they was white. They were small hats. You saw they changed their name so they can blend into the white side. They were small hats. Putting Eddie Cantor, put blackface, color their faces black and go around and exaggerating, just like Thomas Dartmouth Rice painted himself black, imitating black people, demeaning the value of black life, making it justifiable to steal from black people, kill from black people, lynch black people, hurt black people, and everything. Sophie Tucker, it wasn't just the males. Small hats, males and females. We saw Ted Danson do this in 1990. We remember Whoopi Goldberg, he went up in blackface. Understand. We just don't understand the history of it. They know exactly what they're doing. It's not by accident. When you demean the value of people, it gives you the right to do whatever you want to do to them. So if it's a brother you mad at him, if you say, man, that brother said something I don't like, it's hard to do something. You say, brother. Once I say, nah, that N, you call him a B-A-N, you start letting that, you can go do something to him. So they give justification and license to the world to attack black people by demeaning our images. Now, the most popular, one of the most popular ones was named Al Joseph. And I'm just going to show you real quickly a quick clip of him. So when I say Thomas Dartmouth Rice in 1828 painted his face black and took black and started demeaning black people, acting like it was us, I want you to see what these white folks look like when they did it so you have an actual visual.
When Al Joseph made his film debut in The Jazz Singer, Hollywood had emerged as the dominant force in popular entertainment. By 1927, more than 26 million Americans were going to the movies each week. What they saw reaffirmed the tradition of blackface entertainment that had prevailed since slavery.
Mammy, I'm coming. Oh, God, I hope I'm not late. Mammy, don't you know me? It's a little baby. I'd walk a million miles for one of your smiles. But
From the 20s through World War II, blackface permeated motion pictures.
You see there's Shirley Temple. Even their children, they got involved in this. Understand, from the time they're small, you wonder what they teach in those synagogues and back in those rooms where they wearing them big hats and they walking down the street, walking past each other, going different directions. Or the little, some of them had the real big small hats, some of them had the little small hats. You got to see them in different parts of town. Wherever you got the biggest, most expensive buildings and nice architecture, you see them funny looking. These are real serious individuals. Not like us. They don't go around playing around. They start from a little age, getting themselves involved in the exploitation of African people and the constant enslavement of our people. So I want you to understand, because it's critical. This is a very critical point. When you're talking to somebody that's saying you're making too big a deal out of entertainment and what we're watching, you know that you're dealing with someone who is ignorant. That doesn't mean they're bad. It means they don't know. Because it's fundamentally not true. By definition of its creation, it was created to have an impact. Meaning when somebody says a movie don't have no impact, you lying. Why was the movies created? Let's go to one of the earliest, this is the earliest blockbuster film. It was called Birth of a Nation. How many people here have heard of Birth of a Nation? All right. Let me tell you what Birth of a Nation was. After Reconstruction, black people had owned, we had mayorships. After slavery, we had our own towns, hundreds of them. We had built them from scratch. We were manufacturing, the type of transportation people had then was not cars. They hadn't been invented yet, but they were carriages with horses. We were manufacturing carriages. People from all over the country would come to us to buy them from us. We were building communities all over this country. And after Reconstruction, the whites got upset and came to start murdering black people, killing us. And it went into the early 1900s. And there was a book written by a white male called the Klansman. And basically the book was saying that by letting black people out of slavery, that we were going to turn this country upside down and start raping white females, all this foolishness. Anyway, a small hat took the book. His name was D.W. Griffith. David Llewellyn Wart Griffin. He read this book and he said, I'm going to make this into a motion picture. Now understand, this is before movies had any sound. Movies had just come out. So this is something brand new. Imagine for the first time going to see a huge screen with something being acted out. And what was this thing, Birth of a Nation, about? In this Birth of a Nation, matter of fact, this film was so powerful and so important to the history of this country, D.W. Griffin sat down with Woodrow Wilson in the White House, showed him this film. Woodrow Wilson said something to the effect that this is like history written in light. And unfortunately, it's so true. What was the juvie about? Had white males painted in black face. They had taken over after slavery. We were free. We were running around, jiving off in the House of Congress, acting like a bunch of buffoons and clowns and rock fighting and balled up people fighting each other in the Senate. And then you had black men running around the streets trying to rape white females, and in a very intense scene during that time, you have a black male who's chasing the rape down, and it's a white boy in blackface, man, a small hat, chasing a white female, get her to the end of a cliff, and to avoid being raped by a black man, she dives off the cliff and kills herself. Do you know that the Klan's numbers went from hundreds to the millions? This single film was the rebirth of the Klan, put in 1920 and put in some of the early 1900s Klan march on Washington. You will see millions of Klansmen marching on Washington. Why? Because of a small hat. Now I want to tell you how insidious they are. Because you got to understand, while we jiving and joking and playing games, we have master planners who think things through. They are always on both sides of the equation. In the early 1900s, D.W. Griffin creates a film that sparks the white masses to start burning down black communities and lynching black people all throughout the South. All right? At the same time, they create an organization called the NAACP.
All right.
I want you to hear me now. It was not created by black people. The only black person that stayed on the board when it was created was W.E.B. Du Bois, and he was a Negro that got a check. He had no power. He did what his masters told him to do. Not only did the NAACP destroy Marcus Garvey and the UNIA, but think about this. The white so-called Jews, the small hats, create a film that gets white folks mad to go murder black people. Then they create an institution that tells black people we should fight back. We should fight the laws that say we should integrate into the society. So when your family member gets lynched, instead of you getting guns and starting to defend yourself, here comes the white so-called Jew, the small hat lawyer and attorney, come to the NAACP, we need to fight these lynchings. Now, you paying the attorney all your resources to go out there and the judges fighting against the Ku Klux Klan saying what they doing wrong, but they're the very ones that create the Klan by creating images that get the whites to want to go out there and start killing you because they see you as a threat. So they getting rich by the second because they on every side of the whole thing as it's going down. Judge Julian Mack, the judge on Marcus Garvey's trial, the one that gave him a ridiculous sentence for something he didn't commit, and at the same time, D.W. Griffin creating the films that's getting the whites to go out to kill black people, to make black people say we need to get out of here and do for ourselves. Creating massive confusion among everybody so that they can take and rule over everything. So, we understand why did small hats create Hollywood? To keep black people in America enslaved. Y'all all right?
Yes, sir.
Y'all with me?
Yes, sir.
I ain't yelling at you too much. I talk kind of loud sometimes, you know that. I get excited about these things. I like it. When you learn better, you do better, right?
That's right. That's right.
It's supposed to be that way. But here's the quid pro quo, the question we have to answer. Okay, they created entertainment to keep us enslaved. But how does it work as it relates to whites? Because whites have their shows too. Small hats create shows. What is the impact on whites? How does entertainment in Hollywood affect white America? We want to know the answer? Let's go to the white male who told us. Henry Ford, the car guy. Y'all remember him?
Yes, sir.
You know them cheap breakdown vehicles that I hope nobody here is driving a Ford. But if you're driving a Ford, I feel worse for you that you bought it than I just said it, because I'm sorry. But actually, the creator of the car, Henry Ford, during the early 1900s, was so infuriated behind the behavior of small hats he did something called the Dearborn Independent. It was it's called the Dearborn Independent. It went out on a regular basis, I think weekly or monthly basis. Had one of the largest distributions of any paper in the society. And all he talked about was the problem of the international Jew. He was saying they're destroying the entire planet. They're destroying the morals. Now this is an immoral white boy. You know white folks ain't got no morals. They enslaved us. How they gonna have morals? This is an immoral being talking about how immoral small hats are. And he also talked about the fact they're creating more problems between black people and whites than they need to be. A lot of these black people want to go do their own thing. The small hats tell them to come to integrate, which creates more problems because when they want to date with our children, it makes us mad and it creates conflict. So he was just talking about they taking the banking industry. He talked about everything that they were doing. And it's been put into a book now called The International Jew. You can actually go out and get this book. The world's foremost, the International Jew, the world's foremost problem. And before they attacked him and put him down, he talked about they had something called the Protocols to the Elders of Zion, which is an instruction manual for the small hats of how they were going to take over the world, their process of doing it. And one of the main ingredients was the media. And he said, this is what he said when he explained how the small hats behaved and how they were thinking. And the intent, he said that the small hats said, we have tampered with jurisprudence, the franchise, the press, freedom of the person, and most important of all, listen to this, education and culture, the cornerstone of free existence. He said, we now control the papers. So they know what we tell them. They believe what we tell them to do. If we tell them that the Germans are great, then they love the Germans and they trade with the Germans. If we tell them the Germans are monsters, they'll go to a war and go to war with Germany. So the white folks were sitting there going, they have too much control. They said, education. In other words, all a child is a result of what you put into them. That's what you get out. They said, well, we create the curriculums. We determine what's in the schools. We know what we're going to get out of people because we know what we put into them. And he said, and culture. Culture is what people do. The foods they eat, how the men treat the women, how the women treat the men, how you raise your children. They said, we've come in there now. We've totally what they celebrate, how they celebrate, when they spend their money, how. They said, we've taken complete control of it through the media. And so he goes on and says, as soon as the Jew gained control of the movies, we had a movie problem. The consequences of which are visible. And before this, he was just saying how whenever they get control of anything, as soon as they get control of the alcohol industry, we had an alcohol problem. As soon as they get the movies, we have a movie problem. It is the peculiar genius of that race, talking about small hats, to create problems of a moral character in whatever business they achieve a majority. So if you're playing jazz and it's healthy and it's positive, or if you got hip-hop songs, self-destruction, you let that small hat get involved. Before long, you be calling your women bees and hoes and everything. He's a master at creating problems of morality and ethics in the group. And then he does that. Then he comes in when you're immoral and unethical and robs you and rapes you blind. And then to answer our question directly, he talks directly to the question I asked. What is the purpose of the media as it relates to whites? He says when millions of people crowd through the doors of the movie houses in every habitable corner of the land, it is worth knowing who draws them there, who acts on their minds while they quiescently wait in the darkened theater, and who really controls the massive bulk of human force and ideas generated and directed by the suggestions of the screen. He said, people need to know. That's what we did today. See, this statement is what we just went through. Who is it that's creating these ideas? That we're going out there and feeding our children, our babies, a homosexual, a pedophile, and someone that thinks that we're a bunch of animals and degenerates and that all we need to be felt is filth so that they can exploit us. We just answered that question. That's who it is that we're sitting in front of every day and every night, giving this foolishness to us. He says, who stands at the apex of this mountain of control? Then he gives us the answer. The motion picture influence of the United States and of the whole world is exclusively under the moral and financial control of the Jewish manipulators of the public mind. In other words, he's saying everybody on this planet that's not a small hat is doing what they're told. Because in any place you are on the planet, if you're in Africa, if you're in Brazil, if you're in Asia, if you're in Europe, if you're in America, There's one person telling you what to think, how to think, and what to do. The small man. Then white folks talk to you now.
That's right.
And so we see from that time, from Thomas Dartmouth Rice, the jumping Jim Crow, you heard that, to D.W. Griffith, Birth of a Nation, Leon Schlesinger. Anybody, let me take it real quick. Anybody remember when you constantly saw the name Leon Schlesinger? You've seen it a lot of times, you probably never paid attention.
Looney Tunes.
Looney Tunes. Every time the Looney Tunes finish, it comes on Leon Schlesinger. We're going to deal with cartoons next time, not today. We're going to deal with it. Leon Schlesinger right there. Here you have Mayor that we just talked about of MGM, Metro Goldwyn and Mayor. Here you have Al Jolson. We just saw somebody there. These individuals, put a little hat on them, make it a little easier to understand who they is. That's what you're dealing with, the small hats. These are the individuals and the mentality that's controlling the world. And it was like that yesterday, and it's like that today. From Sumner Redstone to Edgar Brofman to Norman Pearlstein. I know some of these names are individuals you've never heard of, but it's so interesting. The most important individuals as it relates to the image of our people and to the control of the world are individuals we never even heard their names or seen them before. Remember how they showed you Sturman? He put the thing on his face and tried to hide himself. That's what's so interesting about small hats. They out here committing crimes of immeasurable, unimaginable proportions. But you don't even know they exist. When you find out that they're guilty of a crime, usually, you know, like we was in D.C. How many people here from D.C.? A couple people. When they locked the cat named Rayful Edmonds up, we was like, yeah. You heard of Rayfus, right? You might have never seen him, but everybody knew Rayfus because he was a big-time guy in this area. The thing about a small hat, they'll be doing 20 times more damage and be a billion times more important than any Rayful Edmonds in the world. And when you hear about the crime they committed, you're almost not mad at them because you don't have anything to base it on because you ain't never even heard of the person. They operate in secrecy and hide. But what we need to understand, I'm coming for you now, how does this directly impact black people? Now we're going to go into the construct. Okay, we know that this is small hats. That's clear, right? Check? All right, small hats are the one targeting black people's minds. How do they do it? How do they actually take a black person and change them from being someone who would have self-respect and make us not have self-respect? How do they take someone in the world who's never seen a black person, make them look at black people and think bad about us before they even talk to us for the first time? How do they take a black person who would otherwise be a decent, dignified human being and turn us into a complete clown? We run around, don't even take ourselves seriously. How do they do that with just an image? So we're going to go into the construct. You see here the brothers and sisters all sitting down in front of the television. It's a powerful thing, that Poltergeist. That thing will pull you in. But we said it's a one-way means of communication. How is it communicating to our people? They communicate through an idea we call characters. Let me give you an example of what a character is. A character is not any one person. A character is a group of ideas associated around one general theme. Meaning, let's give a good example. Let's say I want you to think that Polacks are stupid. You know how I make you think Polacks are stupid? I don't ever have to introduce you to a Polack. When you're a child, I'll tell you jokes. And I'll give the individual that I'm talking about in the joke, I'll call him Joe the Pole. And I'll talk about him eating the Polish sausage, and I'll tell funny punchlines about him being an idiot. And you will laugh at him. You will find it funny. You will say, boy, this is funny. And then I'll tell you what about his wife and how dumb she was. And I tell you that from the time you're 5 to the time you're 20. And the first time you meet somebody and they tell you they're Polish, you start laughing before they even say something. They don't even have to be funny. They can be a very serious, intelligent person. But it's going to take a long time for them to convince you that they're not a complete idiot because before you even knew what a Polish was, or Polak was, you knew Joe the Pole. Joe the Pole is the character that represents a group of ideas whose basic theme is Polacks are stupid. So for black people, they have any number of characters, but we're going to talk about some of the most important characters because this is how they get black people and mentally and intellectually turn us inside out. This is why when you go to your job, particularly for black people from a black community, you're intelligent, you know what you're doing, you go around white folks for the first time, why they look at you so crazy. And they shocked that you can possibly do something correctly Because they like, what's going on with you? Or when you stand up to them and say, oh, you don't talk to me that way, they go, whoa, what's going on here? Why do they expect that they can treat you a certain way? We're going to see how the character goes into the screen, comes into the mind of people, and that's what the people think that they're actually dealing with in real life. Let's go and start with somebody we all know and don't necessarily love. Hit the lights for me, brother. Mr. Sambo.
What were the consequences of these caricatures? How did they mold and mirror the reality of racial tensions in America for more than 100 years?
I got a hat on my head, shoes on my feet, so what need I care? For I'm the luckiest coon in this town.
In the early 1900s, images and songs portrayed a simple, docile, laughing black man, the Sambo.
Dice, your partner talking to you now, Dice. Come on.
And the watermelons are that way. Oh, Willie.
Yes, Mr. Cole.
And the chicken house is over there.
Chicken house?
Uh-huh.
What am I waiting for?
I don't know.
Me either. Tally ho.
What'd you say?
You ain't getting fresh with me, is you, colored boy?
Funny, huh?
Don't you give me none of that double talk.
Well,
You hear me?
what some folks find funny, others find tragic.
Well, you keep still, okay? Oh, wait.
She has a figure that makes the number 8 look like the number 1. And a smile that lights up the night. And it all belongs to Kid Dynamite!
Aunts, ties, the times I made it.
I'm wearing your underwear!
Every day. Every night. Every night. All the time. Every day. Every night. All the time.
Damn! Steve! What'd I say about hitting so hard, man?
I'm sorry, are you all right?
You sorry? I'm gonna show you sorry, man. I'm gonna show you sorry. I told y'all he's scaring me. Let me get up there.
The Roots.
Oh, I've got a bottle of Schomsburg.
And a new character appeared beside the Southern Sambo, Zip Coon.
Transcendentalism is that spiritual cognizance of the psychological irrefragability.
A very vaginative proposition. My man, that is to say, prostitution pertaining to the content, you understand, of the argument. I myself have imminentized my liquidation, therefore, ergo, I...
Nigger is a global phenomenon. And if you're a nigger wherever you are, this is why I use the term with promiscuity. I understand that as a nigger in America, there are niggers throughout the world. Can we connect to our core niggerdom to understand the vicious ways in which we have been subverted?
Well, so the point is, it's not the problem is FEMA, the problem is cronyism. If you get your boys, your posse, it's like Snoop saying, come on boys from Compton, let's go on and do our thing. It's the soft bigotry of low expectations.
I've heard that.
Yeah.
Now is...
You know what? You're one of the outstanding black people in this nation.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
With a show of hands, how many people were impacted by what you just saw? How many people feel like you have a more clear picture of what a Sambo is, why they put these images in front of our people, and a historical context to why they got Martin Lawrence running around jiving and understand that has an impact? Let me see a hand if you just feel like you understand more than you did when you came in here. That's good. Now let us just talk briefly about what this Sambo does. All right, we just saw what their ideas have become. Real people. It goes from them drawing something and making fun, them doing it first, then they put it in cartoons, and eventually, then they put us on screen, then eventually, it actually becomes the real character. I mean, some sick, demented, buffoonish character about a black person in the mind of some small hat somewhere, 100 years later, becomes the actual behavior in one of our sons or daughters. They actually become a living, breathing, walking manifestation of a group of sick, twisted ideas that somebody else came up with about who we are. How did they make it happen? By constantly feeding it in our minds so that it's difficult to escape from. What is the purpose of the Sambo character, this character? To make black men feel inferior. See, when a young black male sees white boys on TV, they're doctors, attorneys, Rambo, they fight, they're all these things that they are. They're serious individuals in the world. The presidents and all this kind of stuff. Then he looks up, and all we doing is clowning and giggling and bucking and shining.
Right.
It tells him the whites are serious, they're superior. We as black people, big and strong as that brother is up there, he ain't nothing but a clown. We're inferior.
That's right.
And they want us to feel inferior. That's what it does. Make black women believe black men aren't serious and cannot protect nor take care of them. So what happens is the black woman is not going to look. See, the black woman not understanding what's happening is a real deep thing because she remains a member of the black race because, quite frankly, because she's trapped. Because when you look at males behaving in this way consistently, and that's what you see, and you don't have a father in the home, or not a productive father, then you believe this is what your males are because that is the image that's portrayed.
That's right.
And then because your males are bombarded with this too and they emulate this behavior, you see them every day.
Right.
And you're not going to tell them, y'all just a bunch of low-life nothings, y'all don't have any value. But she quietly says, our men are not real men. Now, it's hard to figure out what to do, so some sisters stay with us, brother, because they got to, they black. They just feel like, well, unfortunately I was black and I got to stay with these guys. But they don't stay because they want to. Because who would want to be with something like that? So it's very cleverly designed to take the women who, if they gave us the right motivation, the black man would kill everybody in the world to give it back to the black woman so that she could be saved. But in an intellectual construct like this, we don't even see black men protecting black women. We don't even know that's part of what we're supposed to do. We leave our women unattended, we assault them, the real world takes over, and then she gets the message that we ain't nothing but clowns anyway. And in the remnants of our heart, we want to be men and go out here and do something, but God forbid, we don't know what to do. Where's the group of brothers we can do it with? They all clowning. So it's like millions of black men walking the earth feeling like we wish we could do something. Ain't nobody to talk to about it because don't nobody understand it. Everybody clowning. We don't want to walk to our women and say we let you down. So we just ignore it. And then the buffoons that'll take money to clown our people, they make millions of dollars giving for our people. We don't do nothing to fools. And so the message pervades to black women that we are worthless, and they actually believe that we have no value and that we're a bunch of damn clowns because that's how we act on this planet. Right. And we deserve everything that we're getting from them now. Even though we didn't create this situation. It makes black children lose respect for black male authority. Brother, you wonder why you go to a young man, come here, he looking at you whatever. The world has told him to do everything he's seen with all your physical power. You see Bing Rames bending over half naked in movies and playing transvestites. You ain't no man. So he don't really believe that the black man is a real male authority. Right. Where's the black male army in the world? China got an army. Right. Chinese stand out there, a million of them stand out there. You don't know them Chinese. White boy got so many armies out here, armies, navy, special, but he got so many, he ain't even, you know what he got. Even the Arab, you go over there raping this women, raping this man, they start chopping heads off, cutting them off, putting them on the internet. Hey, look what we do when you come over here and mess with us. What do the black man do? Cool and shine. Right. And say, yeah, some boss.
That's right.
Why would black children? That's because, but now I want you to understand, it's not the black man's natural character.
That's right. Right.
His mind is so corrupted with ideas that have been put in there, he don't know how to formulate the organization and the power to resist what's going on. That's why we're here today, to understand it. Make black men act irresponsibly and coonish. Right. One thing that is just a basic principle, doesn't matter what it is. The more you see and hear something, the more likely you are to emulate it. That's right. I'm going to say it again. The more you see and hear something, I don't care how much you disagree with it. In other words, if you're around people that drink all the time and you're always around them, the more likely you are to try to drink.
That's right, bro.
If you're around people that smoke weed all the time, I don't care how much you're against smoking weed, eventually the likelihood increases that you will smoke weed. Right. If you're around people that are strong and courageous all the time, I don't care how much of a coward you are.
That's right.
You just develop a little bit of heart because you're just around people that's like that.
That's right. That's
right. Everything that comes across that tube is designed to kill black people.
That's right, bro.
And as a consequence, black males cannot help but to begin to emulate some of these things because we see it all the time. It's all we know through that form of media. So it actually makes us become a reflection of the ideas that they're putting out there. Justify the social abuse of black people, that's very simple. Anybody that acts like that not only deserves to get mistreated, but you're not really mistreating them when you keep them enslaved. I mean, they're a bunch of coons and clowns any damn way. They like it. So it justifies it. There's no reason to feel bad about doing harm to a group of people or males that act like that. They're not going to protect their women. You can go take their women. They're not going to do it for the children. Don't worry about it. Just take them. Go to Haiti and just drag your children, take them, go buy them and everything. It ain't no big deal. What are they going to do? Look at these guys. They're not serious. What are they going to do? They'll tell a joke? Justify the genocide of black people. I want you to understand, when the world looks at this, there's a brother, I think it was Randall Robinson, I'm not certain, but it was a story he told. I was listening to him on the radio and it was very, very powerful. He said, I think he was in China. Don't quote me, but I think he was in China. And he was talking with the Chinese and he was doing some business deal. Everything was going well. And the Chinese male said, you know what? One thing we hate over here in China is the way the whites, it's about 10, 15 years ago, the way the whites, you know, get on TV and act real buffoonish and do your image is a horrible thing that they're doing to you. And as he began to talk to the Chinese man, he was talking about like Martin Lawrence and all those kind of things. The Chinese dude, he didn't think those were real black people. Because he was like, nobody was doing it. So he was saying, man, what these whites are doing, you thought it was like still like the 20s. He said, Randall Robinson said, he told him, he said, I think it was Randall Robinson. He said, those are black people. He said, the Chinese man looked at him and said, people like that would never get free. And never spoke to him again this whole trip. He said he wouldn't come around and wouldn't even speak to him. When he realized that we would actually get on and act that way. So I want you to understand, it tells the world, and they got resources in Africa, these clowns, they ain't gonna kill them and take this stuff. Because they're looking at you right there like, man, this man, you know how it is. Somebody talk to you at school, they can be a dude that's a punk. But if everybody talk him up like he can fight real good, you tend not to want to fight him. Now, if everybody tell you that dude is a punk, go take his money, it might be the day you don't want to take it, but bottom line is you done been convinced he's a punk, you gonna go try him. You just gonna try him because that's what everybody told you to do. Right. And that's what the world is looking at now. They've told the world that we just a bunch of clowns, and they're trying us. And we're not actively doing anything in our best interest. Could you hit the lights for me? We're moving on out of here. We're close to the end here. Y'all all right? Yes, we got to learn about another character. Small hat don't just mess with brothers. Since ain't no brothers around to do nothing about their behavior, they'll come on and deal with our sisters too.
I got to take down the judge's clothes. Got to take 'em in the house. Yes, Lord. Got to get out that old ironing board. Fix 'em up for the judge to wear.
When this film was released in 1934, the black mammy had become such a staple figure in portraits of the Old South, it was hard to imagine a Southern home without her.
Praise the Lord, Mr. Room. Is you a hat or is you ain't? Hi, Delcy. How come you here?
Like the Happy Sambo, the mammy emerged as a defense of slavery. Plantation novels and minstrel shows presented her as fat, pitch black, and happily obedient to her master and mistress.
You stay here. Us is going to kill the high-stepness rooster in the yard and a great big bowl of milk gravy and grits. And waffles? Don't you worry none, honey. You's home now. Miss Jones home. Miss Jones home.
She was always presented as docile, loyal, protective of the White House and the big house, an indication that, that she understood the value of this society. She is presented almost as an antithesis of the white lady, the person who does not have the qualities of fragility and beauty which would make her valued in the society.
With her hair hidden beneath a bandana, her ample weight, dark skin, and coarse manners, the mammy was stripped of sexual allure. Faithfully, she served the master's household in popular fiction and theater, but here her presence never evoked sexual tension.
If the mammy were to be a sexual being, which of course in reality she was, but if she were to be that in myth and in fiction and so on, she would become a threat to the mistress of the house. She would become a threat to the entire system. Because she would then be capable of being desired by the master of the house. We know from reading the diaries and the letters of slave mistresses that this is very often the case, and created much disruption, much friction in this supposedly happy plantation system that the planters wanted to project.
A brand new red bandana around Mammy's head. You couldn't miss the color, cause it's surely I'm red. Come on and shake your feet, oh honey, shake your feet. It's the Mammy Just see that sweet.
While happy in her subservience to whites, the mammy was portrayed quite differently in relations with her own family.
In your usual setup in American society, the person who controls is the male. The mammy is presented as the controller, a way of indicating, quote unquote, how inferior we are. That men are weak and women are strong. The very opposite of the way it's supposed to be, according to the societal norms. So the mammy strikes at two important concepts of gender in antebellum society. She is strong, asexual, and ugly when a woman is supposed to be beautiful, fragile, dependent. She is a controller of her own people, of the males in her own society, when the female should be dependent and subordinate. An indication clearly that black people can't make it.
Some people gotta be the mams and the rest are the mammies.
The Jeffersons' interracial cast was designed to appeal to viewers both black and white.
Great, I sure deserve it.
Nell Carter found fame by serving up a heaping helping of stereotype as the nanny in the hit series Gimme a Break.
Oh, Master, please don't shoot us.
My mother and I would refer to as like the magical mammy role. This magical black woman comes in and saves the otherwise unhappy white family.
It was the very walking, living, breathing mammy caricature. She was asexual.
I'm not gonna ever talk to another man as long as I live.
She belonged to the family she worked for.
What's for dinner?
Meatloaf and squash. You'll love it.
She was jovial and good-humored.
Hello!
No black person ever had their own national daytime talk show until 1986, when a black woman from the Windy City blasted onto the scene.
Sophia, let's go down now. I'm both together. I declare you is slow than this. I thought you said we gonna be.
Dear God, Harpo be in love with a girl called Sophia. Now she be a big girl. Mister say he wanna have a look at her. I see them coming way up the road. They just be marching like going to war.
Oprah would go on to become not only one of the most successful, influential people in television, but in all of America. She wasn't your typical TV star, but her charisma connected with the country.
Here you've got this not too skinny sister.
Now, before I go any further, I have got to say hello to my white brothers and sisters in here this evening. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're finally getting to a stage where we realize funny is funny. We don't give a color is. I know y'all get everything that I'm saying, so welcome. Welcome to our show. Welcome to our party. And if you feel like saying nigga, God damn it, say it.
Same question. How many people feel like you have a better concept of what a mammy is and this caricature that they call mammy is on TV than you did before you came? That's good. Does it disturb you? It should. And I'm gonna be very honest. As disturbing as it is, what disturbs me even in doing this is that I have to be honest. Have I got impacted by these ideas of this or us? Yeah, in my life I've done it. Have I done some real coonish stuff? I've done stuff that's so embarrassing, I wouldn't tell you. If they don't have it on tape, you know. But I think back and I go, it wasn't me, that's not who I am. I'm a very serious person. I think deep. I'm a hard to the core. That's the real person. But not having a father there, looking for a male role model, I look up on this thing, and it really did give me some ideas that sent me in some wrong directions. Same thing with our sisters. You know, I understand what's going on with our women, and I'm not gonna lie, sometimes I get upset, but I really know it's not the sister's fault. But I'm walking with a sister, and she's walking all in front of me, and it drives me nuts. I'll tell you how I'm a petty dude, you know. I be walking, and she start walking, and I stop sometimes and go the other way. Just like, you know, what are you walking in front of me for? You know what I'm saying? But I don't, and the sister, I'm sorry, you know, I'm so used to it. I'm trying to open the door, and she used to nobody opening the door for her. I'm like, look, this is what I do. And I said, man, you saw that Sophia character, right? I said, through this psychological warfare, they have taught our women, unlike traditionally what we know a strong black woman. My grandmother was a super strong black woman. She took care of my grandfather. She did everything, but man, that man took his money home and gave it to her. I ain't never hear her raise her voice at him. That man be dead wrong 2 days past Tuesday. I won't hear it. She'll talk to him offline. I don't know what happened offline, but in front of him she gave it because she knew that the world was beating him mercilessly, trying to take his manhood. She wasn't going to do it. They come in, put it in a movie format, switch it. So if you're a traditional black woman that black men love, like Celia in The Color Purple, who loves a man who does everything to take care of his children, a good woman, the idea he just going to beat up on you. But now if you're a lesbian, like should, if you, Sophia, going around punching on a man, beating him up, loud, obnoxious, hard to deal with, now you're a strong black woman. So everybody wants to be strong, so black women adopt that idea and cannot get along with their own men. And it ain't their natural character. A lot of times sisters want to do, I've had sisters say, you know, I like cooking, but I just feel like I'm breaking the black female code. Fool, that code was given to you by a devil that raped you, then brought you back to your own man, said now take her. He forced you to allow him to abuse you. Now, he's trained you to mentally abuse your own man. To make the man who loves you a built pyramid so that you can enjoy a beautiful world. Don't even want me in your presence. Can't stand your name because all you do is drag him down. It ain't your fault though. I ain't stupid. You're not a bad guy. All of us have been victimized by this stuff. We all, when these brothers are clowning sisters, I ain't giving them no break. That's not manhood. But how did they get this? They got this the same way we looked at right now. And we getting it every single day. Make black women, what's the purpose of the mammy character? To make black women feel inferior. In other words, a large, dark-skinned black woman is beautiful. It's not that. But it is not portrayed as beautiful. Because in the context of the movie that they play, they put a white female or a light-skinned female. That is no knock on our people about complexion. We talk about what they're doing, not us. We should not judge our people about complexion because we didn't rape ourselves. Okay? But the way they do it is anything that's closer to white is beauty. Anything closer to dark is ugly. And that's how they create it. We'll talk about that in the second class. So when we watch it, the black woman looks at dark skin and blackness. It's portrayed as ugly, and she's black, so she believes herself to be ugly. And then her sons have been taught the same thing, so they verify her feeling of being ugly. You black bee, you little ugly nappy head this. Do you know how many black women that are dark skinned are grown women and are still trying to climb the wall of self-respect and self-value because some Negroes who have been trained by our natural enemy to hate their own women have brutalized the minds and mentalities of those sisters so badly that as grown women, they cry at night. As grown women, they put bleaching cream on their skin. As grown women, they fry their head so they can't have their natural hair because this thing is the most powerful form of psychological warfare in the history of the world. It makes you do everything that it wants you to do. Hate yourself. And so black women watch the television and the juvies and feel inferior when sisters, if don't nobody else tell you, you are the most superior thing on this planet.
That's right.
That even barring a black man, there's nothing on this planet as more valuable and beautiful as the black woman. And I mean that from the heart. That's true.
That's right.
Have I always acted that way? No. We in the war though. So I at least want to tell you that. And my object in this war is to do to your enemies the kind of pain that they brought on us. I want to bring that kind of pain on them. So that's as a man, that's my best gift I can give to you. We just talked about this. What else does the mammy character do? Make black men view black women as overly aggressive and unattractive. Understand, black women's behavior has caught up with the man. But traditionally, black women have been easy to get along with. There's no woman that you get along with better than black woman because she's willing to input. A lot of other races got kind of lazy women. We ain't got no lazy women. They in there getting in. You doing something, she right there getting it in. So we've always been able to get along. It's only through slavery and now this media assassination that black women's behavior didn't catch up. But when they were doing this media, even before black women's behavior actually was what a mammy is, which it is today, they were making black men think that black women were like that. So a black man is looking on TV, seeing a black woman act like that. He don't want to deal with a woman like that. He goes for something different. Psychological warfare. That's making your own men not want you, sister, by portraying you as something that would not be desirable. Make black women worship whites and protect white interests. What do you think Oprah is? She's a living, breathing, white worshiping devil in black skin.
That's right.
She has been raped and abused by black males, hates the black male character, so she believes in the small hat.
That's right.
Idea that we should be destroyed, and she works as his minion, as his helpmate.
That's right.
As black men, if we don't stop our women from getting sexually abused, which is the real source of the whole problem, then we deserve what we're getting. But my point is, she's the living, breathing mammy, not I got to take down the... I mean, I used to sing the song about ironing some judge's clothes. Oprah is not no character in blackface. Oprah is not a black person playing a role. She's a living, breathing mammy who does whatever whites tell her to do, no matter what the impact is on black. She's a living representation of this idea of what we call mammy.
That's right.
And if you just saw Monique going out there calling black people the N-word, telling white folks to feel comfortable, and telling them to feel comfortable calling black people the N-word. Right. So who do they give benefit to? All of the black females out there. Think about it. Monique with that movie she just did, throwing TVs at her own daughter, trying to kill her own grandbabies.
Right.
The sister in there stealing a bucket of chicken, big, dark skin. This concept of the mammy in the movie Precious, Juvie, called Juvie, and that Juvie Precious. All it is about taking these ideas and intensifying them in the 21st century. What black man in his right mind will look at that movie and want to be with a black woman? If he's young and impressionable and he's looking at Precious and that's what a black woman is, do you think he's going to go out and search for a black woman? Do you think he'll want a dark-skinned black woman?
Right.
This is psychological warfare. Sisters, y'all should be infuriated.
That's right.
Because your men don't get this way on their own.
That's
it's
right.
war. Distract the world from the historical rape and torture of black women by the white males. This is very important because by depicting the black females big and jolly and happy around Peckerwoods, it's like nothing really happened. Why is she so happy around these whites? If what you're saying is true, that they raped and brutalized and stole your children, you should hate the very sight of the white male.
That's right.
But with these constant betrayals of black women looking like that, it pretty much says, well, man, you know, they seem like they okay with it, and it pretty much says they didn't really get raped during slavery. It was a relationship that nobody wants to talk about. And if you start paying attention on TV, they don't call it rape when they talk about the slave man. They call them relationships. That is a relationship when you sit around raping somebody else's race of women. And lastly, justify the genocide of black people. If the woman whose womb the race comes out of is smiling in the face of the devil that's killing her own race, Why not get rid of all them goddamn people? Ain't nobody supposed to be more angry and hurt about what's happening to their race than the woman who bears the race. The race is inside of her. Right. Without her, ain't no race. That's right. And then you go and harm her children, her men, her sons, her fathers. Man, she's supposed to hate you timelessly with an E on it. I learned that in school, where E means just continuous forever. Black woman hate a cracker with an E on it. That's right. That's right. But if they depict you as loving white folks, when you supposed to be hating them based on what they did, then they might as well go get rid of you. I mean, the chicken that loves the wolves and to take his baby chickens to the wolves, you might as well go kill them chickens and eat them that night, right?
That's right.
Cast a small hat, black hair, Uncle Tom, very simple. What is Uncle? You see it. I mean, Morgan Freeman, if he's not the poster child for an Uncle Tom, I mean, he doesn't look like Uncle Tom, don't he?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What is Uncle Tom supposed to do? Make black men emulate happy slave behavior. When you watch the Uncle Tom, the object of it is for you to look at that and say, oh, I'm going to do that. So when you get to a job, you say, yes, sir, boss. You emulate that because you think it's going to have some benefit. Why? Because that's what you've been trained to do watching the media. Justify white abuse of black people under the guise that we like it. Well, if we acting like that and that's what they depict and we like it, why should they treat us like that? We just a bunch of Uncle Toms anyway. We want to be servants, then they can mistreat us and abuse us. And that's how the world sees it. And lastly, to justify genocide of black people.
That's right. That's right.
The hoochie mama. I want y'all to understand, all the way back to the cartoons in the early 1900s. But the difference was, in the early 1900s, they had to draw it as a cartoon, half naked, standing before the world, dancing and jiggling her body. These are cartoons. We, black women, have become the living embodiment of a half-dressed, non-self-respecting sexual object walking around the world, easy object of the sexual desire of white males. And if you turn on the TV today, what was it called? Lincoln Heights? What was the new show everybody watching? Not Lincoln Heights. One of them Heights, something Heights.
Pacific or
one of them some Heights, you know. Every show, it don't matter. You know what? Let me tell you. Turn on the TV. It's a black woman chasing after a white boy.
Right, right.
All right? Yeah, Lincoln Heights. Everything now. Why? Because the object is to objectify you as some sexual object to come and take and destroy your race and make you think it's legitimate. And that's what the whole hoochie mama thing is. And it's been going on since the early 1900s, and it's still going on today. To justify the sexual exploitation of black women by white men. It means if you going around, look at the white boys, man. I mean, they're just right there. Beyonce just standing there. Well, if you act like that and you half naked before the world, you asking for that kind of attention, how can you really say you was raped during slavery? Yeah, right. Look at you. You don't even wear clothes. You don't even wear clothes when you go out with your families. You loud, you a boisterous, you a sexual object. Look, you present yourself as sex. I mean, is that not a sexual object? And then somebody supposed to really feel bad about something happening to you sexually. Yeah, right. He puts your image out there as if you're a prostitute for the world. Then, black women who don't think that way and believe in that, you have to deal with the rest of the males on the planet. You go around the world, go to Arab countries and go to these places, they're looking at you, hey, they watching TV and saying, oh, this is a sexual toy. Let me have fun with it. And even in your community, your sons, they don't want to treat you like a person with value because you're just a sexual toy. That's what the image is designed to do. And it works very well. It works so well that we go around calling our women bees and hoes and not queens. And then we call white females white women. Man, you see the white girl? Well, as a black girl, did you see that black bitch? That's right. How does your own woman, the one that bears your mama's a bitch? But the mother of your enemy that kills your race and rapes your women is a woman. Because you watch this too.
That's right.
And the last one we're going to talk about, King Kong. I just call it King Kong. I made the name for the character. I don't know if they had a name for it, but I want you to understand how, and this, if anything, shows the sophistication in this psychological system of warfare. This shows it. I'm going to tell you why. On the one hand, the mammies are laughing, giggling, the female. The Sambo and the coon is laughing and shining. They're not serious, right? So that justifies mistreating black people. But these small hats are smart. They're like, we got to get everybody. So on the one hand, we Sambos. But then, if the irritated Jenny come to town, Warren Horizon come out here, we got to say something strong. Now they have to legitimize killing us. They got to kill me. They can't fight this. So now they got to create a monster character. So we're a bunch of clowns. But if somebody jumps out of that pot and you can't put me in no Sambo category, how do you justify killing him? He's a Sambo. You can't kill a Sambo. You kill them all. You ain't going to kill one, point him out and say he's dangerous. How can he be dangerous? He's a Sambo. No. So now you got another character. this evil black monster like we talked in Birth of a Nation. That's going to chase white females and run them off cliffs. And he's a murderer. And he's violent. And he has to be imprisoned or stopped and taken away because he's so dangerous and violent. So they got two contrary things going. One minute you a Hopkins, shuffling Sambo on this side. The next minute you the most dangerous, murderous, physically strong and dangerous killer that the world has ever seen. Why did they create this King Kong character? This violent black male? Again, to justify the indirect and direct murder of black men for imprisonment, incarceration, lynchings, shootings by police in the street. They got to give the idea that it's okay to kill him. If it was all Sambos, it wouldn't be right to kill an unarmed brother in the street. But he's not one of the Sambos. He's the King Kong character, the violent black male. If you don't kill him, you don't tell him what he's going to do. He's going to eat your babies or something. What else? To justify the genocide of the black race, you got to get rid of it, because if they get out of control, then one minute they Sambo, but when that don't work, then Dr. Khaled comes and starts yelling on these crackers, and they're like, no, that's the King Kong. If you don't take him, he's going to destroy white civilization, which is probably true, but they deserve to be destroyed, so it's okay. But I'm just saying, they put that out there so that they can kill us and destroy us on either side. And now, I put a rapper up there as the King Kong, because I want you to understand, this whole thing that we call today hip-hop, well, let's take a wild guess. If you had to guess who was behind steering this industry called hip-hop in the direction of murdering each other, calling our women out of their names, calling each other the N-words, and us killing and being violent and doing drugs and being sexually decadent and backwards, who would you think was behind it? Could you hit that light for me, brother?
The hip-hop world is loaded with people of the Jewish persuasion. Which begs the question, why are Jews so crunk?
We love the hip-hop. Seriously, we cannot get enough.
What's the first thing rappers say? Yo. Yo is just oi spelled backwards.
Jews have been a huge part of the rap world, right from the very beginning.
Jews in the record business is an old story, but from the moment rap emerged from the black community, there was a preponderance of Jewish executives who helped usher it into the mainstream.
One of the earliest Jewish rap visionaries of the mid-'80s was Def Jam Records co-founder Rick Rubin.
Rick Rubin is a genius who was making music that was just so ahead of his time. He's an innovator.
He was always raw. He was always, do it the way you feel it. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't afraid to take chances.
I'm not trying to find great new stars. I'm just being true to what I like.
Only a couple of times I would sit and I would go, hold on, wait a minute. What is this white Jewish kid trying to tell me how to do my rap thing? He's Jewish. You don't know nothing about the hood.
That's not where I rap.
It was just an interesting cross-pollination of cultures.
We did it, and look what happened. He was right.
The most powerful guy in the hip-hop business would be Leor Cohen, who was Russell's partner in Def Jam, who headed up the Universal Music Group and now is the chairman of Warner Brothers.
I'm considered a very Jewish person in this business, but rap was going to be successful with or without me or the series of other Jewish people that were involved.
We always said this about Leo. He was the coach. Leo would stand on the side of the stage and say, go kill him, guys! You can do it! You guys are incredible! I love you!
But the influential Jews in early rap went way beyond Rick and Leor.
You gotta wonder if it was a coincidence that so many of the early independent rap labels were established by Jewish business people.
You have a lot of these people working behind the scenes, and the question is why?
They never really identified it as, hey, we're Jews or we're blacks working together. It was just, you know, we're this creative bunch of people that appreciate the music and artistry that is hip-hop.
The connection with Jews and hip-hop is this. We're not afraid to take chances and keep it real.
It's America, so, you know, we got a little Jewish, they got a little black, it's all good.
Who was behind turning hip-hop into what we see it being today? Small hats, that's right. That's why we call it hat-hop. And so, brothers and sisters, the point being, and I think you got the point, in fact, I'm certain, these characters were born in the mind of a group of whites who hate us scientifically. Regular white folk just hate us. because they just hate them. This group, hatred means destroy them mentally, destroy them physically, exploit them, rape them, kill them, murder them. Take everything that is them, their culture, their history, their books, their knowledge of self, their love for their women, their love for their parents. Just destroy them entirely, step by step, all the way. And we have just broached the first stage in our understanding of entertainment and how it impacts black people. Because we've seen the creation of characters that if you look very hard at, characters of yesterday have not changed very much. They're the same character to some degree that we're dealing with today. Now, I want you to write your homework down, and if you didn't get one of those books, make sure you get one before you leave. It's a War on the Horizon pamphlet that has some of our definitions, so it's things that are good for you to have, to remember. But also in the back, there are 5 pages that are empty. So you can write on those, and how many people in here honestly think you'll be able to make the next class? Okay. Was it worth coming out to this one? Yeah. All right, we'll be looking forward for you to come back to the next class. This is the homework. And it's important you do this because the next class is going to be not about the history of this, but now we're going to learn scientifically how is a movie put together. What is a movie made of? We understand some characters, but deeper than that. How is it done? So that by the time we're finished, not only will you know what you are seeing, you will know how to put something together to be good for black people, or if you want to put something together to be negative for somebody else. You'll know what the ingredients are, what you're getting, and how to do it. Homework, 1, if you watch TV, if you turn on TV or movie or whatever you do, or even the radio, identify the following characters and the show that they were on. So that means if you're watching television and you see a Sambo, or if it's a movie, whatever. If you listen to it on the radio, you hear Sambo, write it down and write what it was on. Because what we're going to do when we come back in, when we start the class next time, we're going to go through and tell me some of the shows you saw Sambo. What you're going to realize is, it's always a Sambo somewhere. Zip Coon. If you see a Zip Coon, the only difference between a Sambo and a Zip Coon is that Zip Coon represents somebody like Michael Eric Dyson who's supposed to be intelligent, but they don't make no doggone sense. So somebody trying to use big words or being real well-dressed and just, they're not really serious. Where you know, a regular Sambo just is kind of obvious that he's a Sambo. And lastly, the mammy. If you see a mammy, you know, and it doesn't, she don't always have to be big. I'm gonna give you a little piece of advice. They change it around sometimes. Like they was real clever with the Jeffersons. The mammy, the real mammy per se, was Florence, because she was slim. But his wife, being dark and big, was the mammy character. So you got the visual with her and the behavior there. See how sometimes they figure you getting on, they don't want to listen. They're real tricky, but it's the same thing. Us fighting with each other, it's the same kind of thing. So, and of course, her best friend was a black woman who had a white boy. See how that thing works? Same thing. So, that's 1. And then 2. This is the real part of the homework. Identify black character types that are not listed above and describe what they do. I intentionally didn't put all the characters on there because you got to have something to do on your own. So you got to go and say, because there's some definitive characters that exist. Don't ask me what the name is, you give me your own name. But there are a group of ideas that are consistent throughout stuff. That these individuals do this stuff and act this way. And what I want you to do is when you watch do it, say, okay, this is a character, but it doesn't really fit properly into any one of those characters that he mentioned before. Describe that character, what they are, and what they do, and what show they want. Y'all all up for that?
Yes, sir.
All right then. Well, with that said, brothers and sisters, I just want to give a few suggestions. If you can hit the light for me, brother, because I want people to see this. Hit the light for me, just so you can see really good. These are just some books for people that might not be able to come back, but if you want to start doing some of your own research, we have one book, The Jewish Onslaught. If you really want to understand small hats, you got a good beginning here, but the best beginning book on studying small hat behavior is The Jewish Onslaught. Matter of fact, could you hit the light for me, brother? In the back, yeah, thank you. Just people around. The Jewish Onslaught is very good by Tony Martin. It's very short. He tells his story of how they attacked him as an intellectual in the school, and it's very good to understand it. Also, The International Jew. Also, I need you to write this one down if you really want to get a great book. After you read these 2, I got to also say The Secret Relationship Between Blacks and Jews. That's another critical book on the subject. I don't have it there, I'm sorry. I didn't write that one in there. But Oh yeah, the secret relationship between blacks and Jews is fundamental for our understanding about the relationship between blacks and Jews. But one of the best books on small hats I've ever read in my life is called The Synagogue of Satan. Now, write down the author. His last name is Hitchcock, because there are two books, one by a brother. And that was okay, but the one by the white boy, I gotta admit, that book, if you want to know about small hats, it really breaks them down. But it doesn't deal particularly with media, it just deals with them, period. It's a very good book. It's called The Synagogue of Satan, and the man's last name is Hitchcock. He's a white boy. Very, very, very good book. And it's done in the timeline, so it's easy to understand. Of course, other books, if you want to understand about images, very good books to read that deal with images. Culture Bandits. Culture Bandits 1 and 2 by Dale Jones. Sometimes you can't get part 1, but 2 is still on the market. You got to get that book. It's fantastic. The ISIS Paper. Dr. Francis Cress Welsing talks about imagery. Very fundamental book to understand these things. And of course, our book in the back, War on the Horizon, published by War on the Horizon, by the irritated genie, yours truly. We also have a whole chapter in there dedicated to small hats, which will make more sense to you having seen this lecture than to a person that's just reading the book for the first time, but you'll really get it. And lastly, videos. If you're looking for videos that are similar to what you see today or that deal with other parts of this, one of the best videos called The Attack of the African Image by a sister named Mary Kwesi. It's M-E-R-I-R-A Kwesi, K-W-E-S-I. And if you want to purchase it, you can go to www.kemetnu.com. Kemetnu is Kemetnu.com. Very, very, very good video showing how whites have used the images to attack African people traditionally and historically. And also, of course, the feminization of the Black Male series, parts 1 through 4 back there. We did a lot with images, and you can see how the images impact our people. We have that available here as well. And then, hit that like for me. Hit the like for me one more time, bro. I gotta let them see my last little picture there. Hit that like for me. Pull that out for me, brother. This is what we coming out to do. We done with the class here now. But the object is this, brothers and sisters. Right now, they are tearing us apart with the images. Our objective is to properly educate our people to who it is that has the controls of our people's minds. And once we understand it, you get the light from me again. Once we understand it, it ain't about being friends with nobody. It ain't about being nice with anybody. I want you to understand this and then sit. This is why it's so important to understand what's going on. The kind of weapon that the European has with media now, the strongest psychological weapon in the history of the world, but there's one flaw with it. Once you know what they're doing, it works completely reverse. Meaning, when you don't know what's happening, it's totally consuming you and tearing you apart. But once you realize what they're doing and who's doing it, it infuriates you. And all it does is reconfirm that they hate you every day, and you become a special person. Y'all seen the movie Matrix? You become a special person because once we finish with this course, what you're able to do, you can watch TV and you know what the next events are going to happen in the world because it's all coded. And it's easy to understand. Once you see it, it ain't no mystical, magical kind of thing to understand. You know what to predict because it's predictable. You know the history. You already know what the next characters are coming. You know what this character is designed to do. When they put a new one in front of you, you say, oh, here they go with this, so they must trying to get our people to do this. And you can literally go outside the next day and say they trying. And you can tell a person, nah, I know what you did. You watched this, didn't you? And then you out here thinking that's cool. I can tell somebody when it happened, When I first started getting deep into this thing, I saw the movie Independence Day. And it was a whole movie full of white folks, had one black woman in it. And she sliding up on a pole, half naked during the end of the world's about to end, and she's the daggone stripper on the pole. And I said, they trying to legitimize stripping for black women and make them think it's a real occupation. And I'm telling you, because once you know what they do and how they do it, I turn around and a year later, people want to, oh, well, you know, you got to put yourself through school, and I'm not making judgments on people, but I'm saying they actually teach people that. You learn it there, you would have never thought it was a real occupation. Then it's been made legitimate because she's married to Will Smith who saves the world. Now you got little black girls who otherwise would want to be doctors, attorneys, assistants, own their own business. Now she wants to be a stripper because it's been made legitimate. And then all they got to do is have brothers with strip clubs waiting for sisters and brothers that want to see it. And now they actually get a group of people who do not want to do that to actually, a group of black women, little girls, actually on the internet, 5 or 6 years old, thinking that, oh, when I grow up, I want to be a stripper. It ain't even that hard. But when you understand it, you become a very powerful person. Last thing, and I promise, the last thing I'm going to let you go. I got to give you a word of advice, though. Give yourself a couple of weeks, come back here before you try to go start explaining this stuff to people, because see what happens is when you take this stuff and try to jump out there, you might sound crazy. Tell you a quick story so you understand what I'm saying. I used to watch Astro Crazy. How many people in here are familiar with Astro Crazy? And he has one video, my favorite video, is called Christianity's Stolen Religion from Africa, Part 2. How the enemy became the deity. And in one part, he breaks down the history of Santa Claus and how it came from Cronus, who was from Rome, and how he ate his own babies and the blood came down the candy. That's where the candy cane came from. But he showed it, just like you saw today, right? It made sense. It blew me away. And I was going on a date with his sister, right? She ain't never heard or seen none of this stuff. I think we went to see Titanic or something. Anyway, we was talking, and I bust out in the middle of the conversation. She's talking about Christmas. Nah, you don't understand. See, when you look at the candy cane, right? It's a baby and the blood is flowing down, and she looking at me. I was a wow. I ain't never hear from her again. So don't give yourself a couple weeks while you go out there and try to start explaining it. Do the stuff we're doing. We'll come back to second class, then about a third class, then you go out and you're on your own to do that work. How many people in here appreciated what you learned today? Thank you for coming out. Give yourselves a round of applause. We are finished. We ask you if you can support us over here. If anybody have any questions, we almost running out of time. You got a quick question, I can answer it now. If not, we'll let you get your products. My brother Hakeem.
Well, brother, I just want to say that's the absolute best presentation. I mean, not that I've seen anybody in the history of black people do put together. Straight up.
Thank you, brother. Wow. I don't know if y'all know, this is the brother, the Honorable Safo Hakeem from Baltimore. He's fighting the pedophilia, people molesting black children in Baltimore, the homosexuality trying to spread, the Negroism. This is a strong brother in Baltimore. He's read more books than many of us have seen and heard more lectures too. So for this brother to say that, that is a huge compliment. Thank you, brother. Thank you. Thank you for coming out. It always feels good when people are doing things and they come out to support. Well, with that said, brothers and sisters, we look forward to seeing you 2 weeks from now. We have our products there. Please support us. You know, the white folks, I don't think they're going to support this one. I don't know. The rednecks might help you on this one. They don't like these hats either, but that's a joke. But support us if you can. We appreciate you coming out, and we will see you next time. We'll see you on the battlefield. Thank you, brothers and sisters.
Check 1 2 1 2. Let's get some vibes. Check 1 2 1 2 1 2. My offer the great disaster. Don't get confused about my way of life. It's not gangster, it's militant, ill intent. I mastermind and leave a federal building bent. Build a tent and live in the wilderness. Shop in a tree branch, in a river spearing fish. I'm fearless. Every now and then you might find a video of me through my media pipeline. It's wartime. Check 1 2. The irritated genie. Ready. Southpaws in the house.
Feminization of a black male.
Yeah, it's a war on the horizon.
Feminization of a black male.
Let's go, Paul. They say Zeus descended as an eagle and kidnapped this young boy named Ganymede. He forced this young boy to be his lover. How sick is that? The Greek god known as Zeus was a twisted cat. They say he had many faces and wore many hats. Homosexuality accepted by blacks, but when I backtrack, I see no history. It's European trickery. We weren't involved in such white sex acts. You disagree, the burden's on you to prove it existed. In Africa, amongst the original Egyptians, show me bestiality and Kemet. Show me pyramids where homosexuality was represented. The image imprinted. You can't cause it ain't culture. Wrong for fighting this 10,000-pound gorilla in a song. Bring it on. Am I wrong for fighting this 10,000-pound gorilla in a song? Bring it on. Am I wrong for fighting this 10,000-pound gorilla in a song? Bring it on. Am I wrong for fighting this 10,000-pound gorilla in a song? Bring it on. Julius Caesar was every man's wife and every woman's husband. Columbus raped Indian boys by the dozen. The Middle Passage, blacks yelling and suffering across the Atlantic. Chained down in pain, somehow they survived. Although he feminized by the white bandits, death and disease left some slaves stranded, floating in the ocean where their bodies were examined by the sharks. And in the dark they would follow, waiting for a taste of this human cargo. Those sharks didn't swallow or put on sex farms, made it and forced to use white sex norms. Incest, sex with your cousin and your sister. How could you forget all that they done to us? Am I wrong for fighting this? 10,000-pound gorilla in a song. Bring it on. Am I wrong for fighting this 10,000-pound gorilla in a song? Bring it on. Am I wrong for fighting this 10,000-pound gorilla in a song? Bring it on. Am I wrong for fighting this 10,000-pound gorilla in a song? Bring it on. James Baldwin and William Styron were interracial homosexual lovers that decided to architect and construct a new version of Nat Turner's life that will marginalize them. Damn, James, how you do that? Team up with a cracker to downplay what Nat did with an axe to the master. You knew when Nat Turner meant the blacks. I read your poems, you had your hands on the pulse of the people. It seems that Nat Turner represent the dangerous road before Martin King. Maybe you should review the roots. A literary genius, why'd you let this William come between us? Nat Turner lives and he'll always be seen as the meanest slave ever, the cracker beat-header. Am I wrong for fighting this 10,000-pound gorilla in a song? Bring it on. Am I wrong for fighting this 10,000-pound gorilla in a song? Bring it on. Am I wrong for fighting this 10,000-pound gorilla in a song? Bring it on. Am I wrong for fighting this 10,000-pound gorilla in a song? Bring it on. NAMBLA, the North American Man-Boy Love Association, teamed up with gays and fought for rights. They all sick, one and the same. They think it's okay to screw boys at 14. They gone insane. Jump shot, dribble, bounce pass. It's all the same game. Blow the whistle. They foul fags more than a little. Hey, why we practicing their sex rituals? Some say I'm spewing hate. I say they used African babies as alligator bait. Let me navigate up to 2008, 2009, 2010. They selling black kids to homosexual men and lesbos too, man. We gotta step in.